Welcome back to another high-octane explainer. Today, we're zeroing in on the spectacular Moto3 final race showdown that just tore up the Sachsenring. The 2026 German Grand Prix gave us absolutely everything we love about this sport. Razor-thin margins, strategic masterclasses, and, some real heartbreak, too. It's round 11, the grand finale right before the summer break, and the stakes, well, they literally could not have been higher. We're going to break down the race flow, look at some incredible moments, and wrap up with those all-important point rankings. So let's get into it. Okay, let's dive into this, because this quote perfectly captures the whole vibe of the weekend. We took some risks. Those are the words of our race winner, Brian Uriarte. And honestly, in Moto3, if you're playing it safe, you're just going to get swallowed by the pack. To stand on that top step in Germany, Uriarte had to push his KTM machine right to the absolute limit, pretty much dancing on the edge of disaster lap after lap. Section 1. The Fierce Sachsenring Battle. Now, this circuit is a total legend on the calendar, but man, it places some incredible physical and mechanical demands on these riders. Coming into this right before a long summer break means mental fatigue is already super high, and this track, it takes absolutely no prisoners. To understand why this race was so grueling, you got to think about the layout. The Sachsenring is this tight 3.671 kilometer anti-clockwise circuit. Think about this, 10 left-hand corners, but only 3 right-handers. When you combine that crazy asymmetrical layout with some severe elevation changes, overtaking becomes incredibly risky. You're constantly leaning hard on the side of the tire, just fighting gravity and momentum the whole way around.
And it all really comes to a head at the notorious Omega Turn 3. It's exactly what it sounds like, a massive, punishing, sweeping left-hand loop. Riders are banked way over on the left side of the tire for what feels like an absolute eternity. Between the Omega corner and the blindingly fast Turn 7, the left shoulder of that tire just takes an absolute beating. Mastering that tire wear while still keeping that next-level agility and machine control is pretty much the only way you're going to survive the 23 laps out here.
Section 2. Lead battle and race flow, a high-stakes chess match. So, how did the actual race unfold under these brutal conditions? The tension right from the moment the lights went out was just palpable, kind of like a high-stakes chess match, but, played at 150 miles per hour. Let's move to and see how this builds across the race timeline. Right out of the gate, championship leader Maximo Quiles threw down the gauntlet. He set the fastest lap of the race on just lap 3 with a blistering 1 minute 25.227 seconds. But the really pivotal moment, that happened on lap 12. Alvaro Carpe, who was right up there in the lead group, pushed just a fraction too hard trying to keep up with that searing pace, and he ran wide straight into the gravel. Now, he miraculously recovered, but that one mistake completely fractured the lead pack. Suddenly, the whole dynamic of the race totally changed.
With Carpe out of the immediate picture, the second half of the race turned into this intense private duel. It was a really cagey cat-and-mouse breakaway. Brian Uriarte and Maximo Quiles separated themselves completely from the rest of the pack. They were just out there sizing each other up, studying corner exit speeds, and trying to save just enough rubber on that critical left side of the tire for the inevitable final showdown. Section 3. The dramatic final lap. A breathtaking finish.
I mean, this right here is what Moto3 is all about. The adrenaline was absolutely through the roof, as we saw not one, but 2 separate spectacular battles happening at the exact same time. Let this number sink in for a second. 0.063 seconds. Literally the blink of an eye. That was the razor-thin winning margin as Brian Uriarte expertly defended his line, holding off a charging Maximo Quiles right at the checkered flag to snatch his second Moto3 win at the German Grand Prix. Uriarte took the risks, he managed those tires beautifully, and he just executed that final sector flawlessly. But, incredibly, the battle for first wasn't even the closest finish of the day. Think about that. The fight for the final step on the podium was even wilder. Matteo Bertel actually managed to pit Marco Morelli by 7 thousandths of a second. Seriously, 7 thousandths. Morelli just slightly overcooked it, overshooting the final corner right onto the main straight, and Bertel just capitalized on that superior drive to win a breathtaking drag race to the line. Absolutely wild. Section 4. Final race results. A top 10 breakdown. After all that adrenaline, let's take a breath, bring the pacing down just a bit, and look at the analytical breakdown of how the top 10 actually played out after 23 punishing laps. Now, what's really interesting about this is looking closely at the time gaps. You've got Uriarte and Quiles up top, pretty much in a league of their own. But check out the incredible pack from 3rd down to 5th.
Bertel, Morelli, and Rico Salmela all crossed the finish line within less than a tenth of a second of each other, sitting around 5 seconds back from the leaders. It just goes to show you exactly how fiercely contested that best of the rest battle truly was.
And we definitely can't look past the riders who were fighting their way up through the field. Ryusei Yamanaka had a fantastic, really steady climb from a tricky ninth-place qualifying spot. Navigating his empty helmets machine through all that mid-pack chaos, he secured a highly valuable P9 finish, trailing Veta Pratama in 8th by a mere 0.117 seconds. In Moto3, consistency is absolutely vital, and these are exactly the kind of solid points finishes that keep you alive in the team standings.
Section 5. Latest points ranking. The summer break standings. So, what does this all mean in the grand scheme of things? Let's pivot to the bigger picture as the Moto3 paddock packs up and heads into a much-needed summer break. Looking at the top 5, you can see at just how heavily this German round shuffled the deck. Thanks to his brilliant victory, Brian Uriarte has leapfrogged Alvaro Carpe, who, remember, paid dearly for that lap 12 excursion into the gravel, to take over second place in the championship by a single solitary point. Meanwhile, David Almanza, sitting in 5th, suffered a pretty devastating 0-point weekend. He actually had to sit out the entire Grand Prix due to an illness related to tonsil issues. Really tough break for him. So the crucial point is 104. That right there is the point gap between first and second place. Despite Brian Uriarte riding an absolute masterclass to take the victory in Germany, Maximo Quiles still holds a staggering, honestly awe-inspiring, 104-point lead after the first 11 rounds of the season. That is huge. Which makes this post-race comment from Quiles incredibly amusing. Reflecting on getting beaten to the line by Uriarte, Quiles just smiled and said, "I was a bit too much in summer holiday mode." It's a surprising, kind of humorous quote, right? But it shows exactly how confident the guy is. When you're sitting on a triple-digit point lead, finishing second by a few thousandths of a second isn't exactly going to ruin your vacation. And this brilliantly illustrates the two totally different narratives of the 2026 season playing out at the exact same time. On one hand, we have the immediate glory, Brian Uriarte winning the Battle of the Sachsenring by taking calculated risks and really pushing the envelope. But on the other hand, we have the reality of the entire season. Maximo Quiles is winning the war. He has constructed this overwhelming championship margin by just being relentlessly consistent, locking down 10 podium finishes in 11 races. He doesn't always have to win the race, folks. He just has to be right there at the end. Which leaves us with this final burning question as the engines cool down for the summer. With a 104-point mountain to climb, can anyone catch Maximo Quiles in the second half of the 2026 season? Uriarte absolutely proved he has the pace, and Carpe is going to be incredibly hungry for redemption. But man, overcoming a deficit this massive in Moto3 is a monumental task. You really won't want to miss a single corner when the racing resumes. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep following the sport, and we will catch you at the next Grand Prix.